Emily, Ryan, and Alex are on a cross-country road trip when their car breaks down on an empty highway late at night. Thick fog covers the road, and the engine refuses to start. Emily slams her hands on the steering wheel, frustrated and anxious, while Ryan tries to fix the engine, attempting to calm her. A faint whisper floats through the fog, barely audible, but chilling enough to make the friends uneasy. Alex, trying to lighten the mood, jokes that he might be imagining things, but Emily senses something is very wrong. Realizing they cannot stay by the car, the trio decides to walk toward the nearest visible sign. The fog swirls unnaturally at their feet as they approach a broken sign reading, "Welcome to Hollow Creek, EST 1823. From behind the sign, a shadow flickers briefly, disappearing the moment they look directly at it. The deserted town streets are lined with broken houses, shattered windows, and decayed wooden doors. Every step they take echoes unnaturally. The air is cold and damp, and strange sounds of children laughing and doors creaking seem to come from nowhere. Suddenly, a black-eyed figure is seen at the top of a broken staircase. It vanishes the moment they blink, leaving them terrified. The town feels alive and hostile. Emily, Ryan, and Alex realize they have entered a place they do not understand. Every shadow, every movement in the fog makes them anxious. The darkness feels intentional, as if the town itself is watching. Their fear grows as Hollow Creek appears to shift and change around them. This opening section sets the stage, introducing the characters, the town, and the supernatural threat. The suspense is constant, with eerie whispers, unexplained shadows, and a foreboding sense that the entity is already aware of their presence. The friends brace themselves for the unknown. The trio cautiously explores the abandoned streets of Hollow Creek. Fog curls around their feet, and shattered windows reflect their terrified expressions. Every house seems to watch them, and faint noises echo unpredictably. Alex comments that the town feels alive, trying to remain sarcastic, but the tension among them grows. Suddenly, a child's laughter echoes from an empty house, freezing them in place. Ryan assumes it's only an echo, but Emily feels the danger is real. They continue to search for shelter or help, eventually discovering a dilapidated old church. Moonlight filters through broken stained glass windows, casting eerie colors and shadows across the interior. Strange symbols and occult drawings cover the walls, hinting at past rituals. The church floor creaks under their footsteps, and the shadows seem to shift unnaturally. Suddenly, an old hermit appears from the darkness. His appearance is sudden and jarring, adding to the tension. "Leave. Now." Hollow Creek never forgets, and it never lets go. He warns cryptically before disappearing. Ryan asks nervously what he means, but the friends are left with no explanation. Emily notices that Alex's reflection is missing from a cracked window, increasing the sense of supernatural influence. As they read further, Emily finds an ancient journal containing details about the town's curse. According to the journal, anyone who enters Hollow Creek is hunted by a vengeful entity, later revealed as the Shadow Man. Their unease intensifies, and the church becomes a center of foreboding. The sounds of distant whispers and unidentifiable noises echo through the broken walls. Each step they take seems to trigger subtle movements of the shadows, creating a sense of paranoia and fear. The atmosphere is thick with suspense, emphasizing the psychological horror. This section establishes the supernatural rules of the town and foreshadows the imminent attacks by the entity. The church serves as a critical location for the story's horror buildup. The friends must confront the realization that Hollow Creek is cursed, and their survival depends on understanding the dark forces at play. Inside the abandoned church, Emily reads aloud from the ancient journal, discovering the horrifying details of Hollow Creek's curse. According to the journal, the town is haunted by the Shadow Man, a vengeful entity that watches all who enter and ensures that those who see it disappear. As Emily finishes reading, the shadows in the church grow darker, and an unnatural silence fills the room. Suddenly, the black-eyed Shadow Man bursts through the doorway. Its movements are jerky and unnatural, and a cold, overwhelming presence fills the space. Ryan and Emily scream as the entity lunges at Alex, grabbing him and pulling him into darkness. Only his terrified screams echo through the empty church. Emily rushes forward, grabbing Alex's hand, but the Shadow Man vanishes as mysteriously as it appeared. Moments later, Alex returns, pale and silent, whispering incomprehensible words that send shivers down Emily and Ryan's spines. The church feels alive, the shadows twisting and moving independently of the friends' actions. Each creak of the floorboards or flicker of the candlelight increases the tension, making the audience unsure what is real. The trio realizes the supernatural entity is intelligent, stalking them deliberately. Emily attempts to calm Alex and understand what happened, but it is clear that the entity's influence has begun corrupting him. The air is thick with fear and foreboding, every corner seeming to conceal the entity's next attack. They begin to grasp that Hollow Creek itself is a trap, with no clear way to escape. This attack sets the stakes for the remainder of the story. The friends' lives are in immediate danger, the Shadow Man is relentless, and the supernatural forces of the town are stronger than they could have imagined. The psychological horror builds as Alex's behavior becomes increasingly erratic, foreshadowing future confrontations. Their survival now depends on courage, intelligence, and understanding the dark rituals that maintain the curse. Emily and Ryan attempt to flee the church, but Hollow Creek seems to warp around them. Streets twist and reshape themselves, leading them back toward places they have already passed. The fog grows thicker, curling unnaturally around their feet, and the silence is broken by distant whispers, faint laughter, and unexplained creaks. Black-eyed shadows appear at every corner, watching silently from broken windows. The friends are constantly disoriented, unsure whether they are moving forward or trapped in a looping nightmare. Alex, now partially possessed, mutters incomprehensible words, pointing to shadows as if communicating with the entity. His behavior grows more erratic, and Emily realizes that the Shadow Man's influence is spreading. Doors slam shut behind them without warning, and buildings seem to shift locations while they run. The psychological tension escalates, with every movement triggering a jump scare or unnatural sound. Emily searches desperately through her journal for clues, recalling that certain symbols can protect them if used correctly. Meanwhile, the Shadow Man stalks them relentlessly, appearing briefly in alleyways, on rooftops, and through shattered windows, vanishing before they can confront it directly. Ryan clings to Emily, terrified but determined to survive, while Alex's possession increases the risk of disaster. The friends' fear escalates into panic, emphasizing the town's malevolent power. Hollow Creek is not only haunted but actively manipulates reality, making escape seem impossible. Every twist in the street, every shadow movement, reinforces the psychological horror. The audience experiences the feeling of helplessness along with the characters, and the entity's omnipresence creates constant suspense. By the end of this segment, Emily recognizes that a direct confrontation is inevitable, and the only way to survive may be to use the protective symbols from the journal, setting up the climax. Emily and Ryan find temporary refuge in the church. Using the journal to plan a confrontation with the Shadow Man, candles are arranged in a protective circle, and symbols are carefully drawn on the floor and walls according to the instructions in the journal. The atmosphere is tense, filled with shadows that twist and flicker unnaturally. Alex, now fully influenced by the entity, wanders near the circle, whispering strange words. Emily tries to calm him, but it is evident that the entity's possession has reached a critical stage. The Shadow Man lurks just beyond the circle, its black eyes visible in the dim light, watching every movement. A sudden gust extinguishes some candles, creating a moment of panic. The friends struggle to relight them while the entity stalks them, moving silently and unpredictably. Sounds of distant laughter, doors slamming, and whispers fill the church, heightening the psychological horror. Emily prepares to use the symbols and chants aloud from the journal, attempting to repel the entity. Alex lunges suddenly, forcing Ryan to restrain him. The Shadow Man attacks, twisting shadows violently around them. The tension peaks as Emily's chants clash with the entity's malevolent presence. The entity recoils temporarily, allowing Emily a brief moment of control, but the danger remains imminent. This confrontation highlights the rules of Hollow Creek. Courage, knowledge, and ritual are necessary to survive. The segment emphasizes the psychological and supernatural horror, as well as the peril of Alex's possession. Every action feels critical. Failure could result in immediate death. The outline prepares the story for the final sequence of escape, while intensifying suspense and demonstrating the entity's overwhelming power. The church becomes a battleground of light, shadow, and fear. Emily and Ryan face both the entity and the consequences of Alex's possession, knowing that only quick thinking and bravery will save them. Emily completes the protective circle with candles and draws the final symbols from the journal. The Shadow Man attacks aggressively, its presence radiating cold and fear. Shadows twist violently around the church, and Alex, now completely possessed, lunges at Emily with terrifying speed. Ryan restrains Alex, but the entity continues to distort reality, making walls bend and floors shake. Emily chants aloud, following the ritual exactly, causing the entity to recoil from the symbol's power. The confrontation is intense, combining psychological terror with supernatural threat. The Shadow Man roars silently, an overwhelming presence that fills every corner of the church. Candles flicker and some go out, increasing suspense and fear. Emily maintains her focus, forcing the entity back. Alex collapses, unconscious but alive. The battle is a temporary victory, demonstrating that courage and knowledge of the ritual can repel the Shadow Man. The church is left in eerie silence, the supernatural presence diminished but not eliminated. The friends are shaken, realizing that while they survived, Hollow Creek's evil lingers. This segment emphasizes strategy, knowledge, and ritual as the key to survival, while keeping the horror palpable and intense. The final confrontation tests Emily's bravery, Ryan's support, and the consequences of Alex's possession. It serves as the climax, providing resolution to the immediate danger while maintaining suspense for the conclusion. Emily and Ryan sprint from the church to their car, adrenaline fueling their escape. The engine starts on the first attempt, and they speed away from Hollow Creek as the sun rises, lifting the dense fog. The streets behind them are empty, silent, and deceptively peaceful. Despite their relief, tension lingers as every shadow and sound keeps them on edge. They glance back at the town, noticing a black silhouette with void eyes in a broken window, silently watching them leave. The friends realize that although they survive the immediate threat, Hollow Creek remains a cursed place, and the Shadow Man's presence endures. Their escape demonstrates resilience, courage, and the temporary power of the protective rituals, but the lingering threat emphasizes that evil is not fully defeated. The psychological horror remains as the friends struggle to comprehend what they experienced. The journey away from Hollow Creek is filled with fear, disbelief, and uncertainty about the future. The town fades into the distance, yet its haunting influence lingers in their minds. Shadows and whispers continue to echo in their memory, reinforcing the entity's omnipresence. The story concludes with a chilling reminder that some horrors cannot be completely escaped. The audience is left with suspense and unease, understanding that Hollow Creek is a place of perpetual supernatural terror. The tale ends with Emily and Ryan surviving physically but mentally scarred, hinting that the Shadow Man and Hollow Creek may one day reach them again. The final image of the black-eyed silhouette watching ensures a lingering sense of dread, leaving the horror unresolved and memorable.